Hello everyone, how are you guys doing out there? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And today I want to talk about how The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom may potentially represent the end of a 2-game story, or in a roundabout way you could say a 2.5-game story. Of course, with each passing day and every new video that I upload, we are inching ever closer to the release of Tears of the Kingdom, the next new Zelda game, which is the most exciting time we could possibly be living in. And in fact, next week we're actually going to hit the official 1-month countdown when we actually reach April 12th. And so naturally, a lot of us Zelda fans, and those of us who also happen to have YouTube channels, have been discussing and theorizing and breaking down all things Tears of the Kingdom. We finally got the gameplay. We've got 4 teaser trailers. We've seen the leak of the art book, which I know not everyone has seen. I have seen it, and just of course, so you know, I will not be spoiling any of that. But all of this stuff has been going around out there, and it's kept the conversation going because we can't wait to see what's going to be in this game, how it's going to be different, how it's going to be similar, how it's going to evolve the story and the gameplay from Breath of the Wild. It is incredibly exciting, and many of us have broken down a lot of different elements about the game in this current mysterious state that it's in. And so today what I wanted to do, as I mentioned in the intro, is discuss the possibility of Tears of the Kingdom really just being the end of this story. The concept of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as, you know, a 1-2 punch, Tears of the Kingdom representing a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, is that meant to be the end of the story? You know, Zelda games traditionally are not direct sequels to one another. Those of us who know the franchise well, which is probably most of us, we know, yes, there is a loose and very messy timeline and thread line and connective tissue between all of these different heroes being resurrected throughout different eras of Hyrule and different versions of Zelda, and we know about Demise becoming Ganon and the different versions of Ganon and all of these different things. But with few exceptions, there aren't a whole lot of direct sequels. Majora's Mask is a direct sequel, Phantom Hourglass is a direct sequel, Tears of the Kingdom will be a direct sequel, A Link Between Worlds obviously was like a direct sequel. You know, so it's happened a few times, but by and large, the vast majority of games are not that directly connected. We're supposed to look at all of the Zelda games as connected within a very messy and convoluted timeline, and different versions, resurrected versions of kind of the same hero characters, but that's about it. And so with Tears of the Kingdom being the same Link and the same Zelda and, you know, the same Ganon basically, continuing a story that will be a direct follow-up to Breath of the Wild, is there a chance that Tears of the Kingdom is the end, and they will be doing another Zelda reset with the following game? Or is there even a different chance that maybe Tears of the Kingdom could represent the middle chapter of maybe a 3-game story? Quick reminder before I jump any more into the Zelda talk today, I am always trying to grow the channel. Very proud to have finally crossed 20,000 subscribers in the past week or so. It took me almost 10 years to do so. And boy, does it feel good, and I appreciate you guys. So if you're new to the channel and you like what I'm doing and how I present my conversations, then I hope you consider subscribing to the channel. So I'm just going to go ahead and state what I think might be happening with Tears of the Kingdom on this exact topic. And my guess, it is only a guess and a prediction, right? There's no information to confirm this. And again, we're even talking about this before the game itself comes out, right? Tears of the Kingdom will probably give us some indications of where the story could go, or if we feel like it definitively wraps up the whole concept of these 2 games, right? But if I was to just guess here 1 month before we even play Tears of the Kingdom, I just feel like it probably will be the end. I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are meant to be like a duo, like a 2-game sort of collection of this story, similar to the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And yes, Age of Calamity does throw a bit of a wrinkle in. That's why I joked about a 2.5-game story at the beginning, right? So, and I like Age of Calamity a lot. I had no issues with the story and playing with the time travel stuff, and I know some people felt like it, I think, broke the canon of Breath of the Wild and whatnot, and I personally didn't read it that way. I really enjoyed what it was. I liked the gameplay, and I liked the addition to the story. But we're going to set Age of Calamity aside, as great as I think it is, and we're just going to talk about the actual main Zelda games. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Would I like to see them continue this series, you know, beyond into the next generation with a 3rd game that's a sequel to Tears of the Kingdom? Sure, I mean, I'd be willing to see that, and maybe they make the first ever trilogy, you know, within, like, the Zelda games, right? but I just kind of feel like Nintendo will want to freshen it up and change things up again. Because it is, as I mentioned, so rare for them to make Zelda games that are direct sequels, I don't know that they're going to want to directly jump into a third game using the same engine and same art style and same versions of Link and Zelda. I'm just kind of guessing that when Tears of the Kingdom releases, and if we get DLC down the road or whatever, when they wrap up everything that is Tears of the Kingdom stuff, I'm kind of thinking they're going to move on to the next fresh version of Zelda. Now, I will be very curious to hear from you guys in responses to this video what you would prefer. And again, let's all acknowledge that, again, it's maybe not the best time to make definitive decisions on what we prefer because we have to truly play Tears of the Kingdom to have the best idea of how we're all going to feel about it. But again, we're in speculation territory. We're a month away from the game. This is the fun time to talk about this stuff and just guess and theorize. Only as fans and only for fun. So, in this 1 month period before we've all played Tears of the Kingdom, just based on the idea, I will be curious to hear what you guys think before we all play Tears of the Kingdom. If you like the idea of Nintendo changing it up after Tears of the Kingdom, do we need a third game in this story, with this art style, in this world of Hyrule, or do we want them to continue to evolve and change up and freshen up Zelda the way Nintendo has always done, going back to the original game on the NES? And I think that's the thing. I'll be curious if maybe some of the younger folks out there feel like they'd rather to see the game continue, and if maybe some of the older folks like me who've lived through a lot of iterations of the Zelda franchise might be more open to the idea of freshening up Zelda simply because we've lived through so many different instances of Nintendo doing that. I might be wrong on that. I'll just be curious to see if that's how it breaks down, or if maybe it's completely random and regardless of your age or your experience with the Zelda franchise, maybe that doesn't have anything to do with it, and you either just want more Breath of the Wild-like gameplay, or you just get excited about changing it up after Tears of the Kingdom. Now, it goes without saying, and I've already hinted at it even here in this video, that where the story in Tears of the Kingdom goes is obviously going to dictate a lot of what Nintendo might be able to do with the future story. I mean, technically they can do whatever they want. In fact, Age of Calamity is a great example that, especially in a series that plays with time and time travel so often, you can technically write yourself in any direction, right? We're seeing Marvel try to do that with the MCU right now, and I don't want to get into that. I don't want to go into that tangent too much, other than to say I traditionally was a huge fan of the MCU up through Endgame. Nowadays, I've kind of been tuned out because they've just gone all over the place. There's too much product. They're getting too wonky and weird. I liked the Multiverse of Madness movie a lot because I love Sam Raimi, but I don't necessarily need a lot of multiverse time travel to find excuses to extend your story beyond what feels natural. And while I've always loved how the Zelda franchise has played with time travel in a lot of the different games throughout the decades, I don't want them to necessarily get too crazy with it, right? I kind of like the idea, now again, just going back to my personal thoughts, I like the idea of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with the additional little kind of side appetizer of Age of Calamity being this kind of self-contained 2 or 2.5 game story. And I feel like Tears of the Kingdom might go that way. Now, something I've theorized about as far as what could be happening with the story in Tears of the Kingdom is if there's a significant time jump between games, right? Now, I recently did a podcast with Andres on his channel, Andres Restart, who's a great friend of mine and a great channel. Hopefully a lot of you guys are familiar with him and watching his channel. And this was only a couple of days ago, and he pointed out something to me that I had missed in the gameplay demo that Aonuma did a couple weeks ago, where it showed the same version of Beetle, the salesman, at one of the horse stables in the very beginning gameplay. And so I didn't realize Beetle was there, and so technically there still could be a time jump, and it could be like a descendant of Beetle. But more than likely, if that's the same Beetle from the Breath of the Wild version of Beetle, then yeah, there's probably not going to be a significant time jump. But I'm hoping that that's not the case, and something else weird is going on. And I like the idea of maybe we learn that sometime after the events of Breath of the Wild, Link and Zelda, it would have to be both of them, have a reason to go back into the Resurrection Chamber or the Restoration Chamber, whatever it is, to go into a long slumber until they're needed again. And so suddenly, maybe 100 or a couple of 100 years later, Ganon is about to be resurrected, or there's a threat on Hyrule, and that forces Link and Zelda to have to wake up from their long slumber so they would not have aged. and together they have to go investigate what's happening at Hyrule Castle, and they see Ganon, and he gets resurrected, and then everything goes crazy, and there's Sky Islands, and then the game kind of kicks off from there, right? And so if they do that, and you know, again, it's only a theory, and again, the beetle thing makes me think that maybe that idea is wrong, but, you know, time will tell. We'll find out in a month if that's true. But in a world where there is a way for them to have kind of worked in or baked in a time jump into the story in any way, I feel like that even more lends credence to the idea that they would wrap up the story here, because how many times can you keep time jumping? And if you do time jump between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where else would there be to go once you wrap up the story of Tears of the Kingdom? I feel like they're going to have to defeat Ganon again at the end of this game. I don't think it's going to end on a cliffhanger like God of War 2 or something and be like, oh, we got to go fight Zeus, and you don't even fight Zeus at the end of God of War 2, and you're like, holy crap, that's going to be the beginning of God of War 3. I would be shocked if they do something like that with Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe Nintendo does that for the first time ever and they end a Zelda game on a cliffhanger, but that's not usually what they do. How many times can we fight Ganon in the same thread of Zelda games? I feel like they fought and defeated Ganon in Breath of the Wild. We're going to see Ganon resurrected, and they're going to have to fight and defeat Ganon again in Tears of the Kingdom. And I just feel like unless they want to shoehorn in a third time to go after Ganon in the same series of Zelda games, I feel like it'll probably end with or without the time jump. I'm just guessing it's going to end with Tears of the Kingdom, which will hopefully open up the doors for them to freshen up and start with a whole new version of Link and Zelda stories with the next game that comes out after Tears of the Kingdom. Time will tell, and of course I'll let you know that there is no true wrong answer for me. Breath of the Wild is my second favorite Zelda game of all time, and it's in my top 10 video games of all time. It is so incredible. I think Tears of the Kingdom looks phenomenal. The sky has me so excited, as you guys know. I think there's a chance it's an even better game than Breath of the Wild. It's not a lock, but there is a chance it becomes an even better game. So, like, would I prefer for them to change up Zelda after Tears of the Kingdom? Yes, that's my preference as an old school Zelda fan who's enjoyed and lived through all the different iterations of this franchise since its inception. But would I be disappointed or sad or mad or upset if they make a third game in this same storyline using this same kind of graphics engine and all that stuff? No, I'm not going to be mad or disappointed. I'll be like, okay, I guess I'm just going to play a third game in this franchise. And I'm sure I will love it just like I've loved Breath of the Wild and will probably love Tears of the Kingdom. So, again, time will tell. In a month, just over a month, we're all going to get to play and start our adventure in Tears of the Kingdom. And once we all finish and wrap up that game and see where the story and the gameplay goes, I think we'll all have a clearer picture of if it even makes sense for Nintendo to make another game in this thread line of the Breath of the Wild kind of thread line. And we'll probably honestly revisit that on another video once we've completed the game and see how we feel at that time. So that's what I think. And so that's about it.